keeping up with our motto, let learning be a joy and teaching a pleasure. Here we are with a remote teaching and learning process to bridge the gap. Happy learning, students.
Hello students. Today we are going to see the chapter from Science and Technology part 2. Chapter number 4, that is Environmental Management. Students, already we have seen first two part of this topic where we have covered the certain parts of this topic. Let us see those topics first. The topics which was covered was ecosystem, relation between environment and ecosystem, environmental conservation, environmental pollution, need of environmental conservation, and laws which are enacted by the government. In today's part, you are going to see the next part of this topic, that is environmental conservation and biodiversity and sacred groves. Students, already we have discussed about environmental conservation. Now, environmental conservation has become a need for today. Most harmful effects of the environmental pollution occurs on the living organisms. Our living world have been richly diverse, and this diversity consists of varieties of plants and animals. However, we are not able to see some specific animals about which we have listened from our earlier generations. This is called as biodiversity. So biodiversity is the richness of living organisms in nature due to presence of varieties of organisms, ecosystems and genetic variations within a species. Now this variety or richness in the living organisms is getting depleted, or we can say that this biodiversity has occurs in three different levels. The first one is called as genetic biodiversity. Genetic biodiversity is occurrence of diversity among the organisms of same species is called as genetic biodiversity. Example, human beings is different from others. So possibility of wiping out the species arises if there is decrease in the diversity within the species whose members are involved in sexual reproduction. So this is what about genetic biodiversity. The next is called as species diversity. In species diversity, innumerable species of organisms occurs in nature. For example, when you're talking about dog, in dogs we are getting different breeds of dogs, different varieties of dogs. This is called as different species of dogs. This is called as species diversity. Species diversity includes various types of plants, animals, and microbes. So, innumerable species of organisms occurs in nature, and that is called as species diversity. The third diversity which exists is ecosystem diversity. We have seen different ecosystems. We have heard about varieties of ecosystem, pond ecosystem, lake ecosystem. So many ecosystems are present in each region. And this ecosystem is formed through the interaction between plants, animals, their habitat, and change in the environment. Each ecosystem has its own characteristics and biotic factors. Ecosystems is categorized into naturals and artificial ecosystem. So this is the biodiversity which is existed in three different levels, that is genetic biodiversity, species biodiversity and ecosystem diversity. Then the next is about the sacred groves. Now, what are these sacred groves? Sacred groves are the forests which are conserved in the name of God and considered to be sacred, is called as sacred groves. These are, in fact, sanctuaries which are conserved by the society and not by the government, forest department. As it has been conserved in the name of God, it has special protection. These clusters of thick forest are present not only in western Ghats of India but in the entire country. More than 13,000 sacred groves have been reported in India. So, that is about the sacred groves which are observed in different parts of our country. Now, coming to the part of how this biodiversity can be conserved. This biodiversity can be conserved by different ways. First, by protecting the rare species of organisms, that is, the species which are very rare. Such species of organisms can be protected. Secondly, establishing national parks and sanctuaries. So, we can establish national parks and sanctuaries where such species of organisms can be preserved. Thirdly, declaring some regions as bioreserves. Next, by project for conservation of special species, that is, some rare species should be conserved. Conserving all plants and animals. Then, observing the rules. There should be certain strict rules which should be maintained. And by maintaining a record of traditional knowledge. So, these are certain ways by which we can preserve the biodiversity. So, that is about the biodiversity which can be conserved. Now, at this particular stage, it's very important for everyone to understand their role in the environment. Our role in the environment can be any one of this. It can be a control. If it's control, then preventing the harm, stopping the harmful activities, and changing the mindset. So, these are the things which should be done if you are thinking that your role in the society is to control the environment. Production, revival of harmed factors of the environment, attempting the innovations. Awareness, to make the people aware by educating them, by guiding them, by creating awareness, by initiation, by organization, and by participation. Prevention, by preventing possible harms, designing new plans, factors harmful to environment. By preservation, that is preserving whatever has been left over. Remedies to prevent further loss, preserving unknown regions, and by conservation, that is conserving the available resources. So, at this stage, it's very important as an individual to understand where your role lies. It can be a controller, production, awareness, prevention, preservation, or conservation. Thank you, dear students.